Let me ask you this question. First of all, does it matter? Does the American election really matter? I mean, British people I talk to are all upset because the American election is going to affect their lives. And I don't know what ways they think, but they think in major ways, maybe for historic reasons that Andrew will talk about. Part of me says it doesn't matter to you, partly because whoever gets elected is going to face an enormous financial stringency that's going to make spending plans obsolete. Thanks to General Petraeus, we have won, as you would reasonably define victory in Iraq. That doesn't mean they're not going to keep killing each other to some extent, but then again, we are in London, and killings are known to happen here. There may be more in Iraq, but basically it will be sorted. Obama is a protectionist, pure and simple. He would repeal NAFTA if he could. The trade unions are his masters. And if Obama is elected, there'll be no trade agreements, there'll be no Doha extension. Of course, that's made more difficult now because Peter Mandelson isn't there to offset the French when he's not sailing on various boats. But he's a protectionist, so that matters because McCain is a free trader, really down to his fingertips. Also, we will see the first period in which, in my judgment, if the election goes anything like it looks, where the Democrats will have control of all three branches of Congress, possibly with a veto-proof majority in the Senate, so that there will be no constraint on a very liberal new president if Obama is the president. One of the complaints about McCain is that he's erratic, slightly screw-loose, trigger-happy, so on, which I think is the perfect description for a president that we need right now, facing Iran and Putin and so on. They should be nervous at what he just might do. Now, I know that doesn't make people in Europe very happy. Obama would unleash diplomacy on people. I don't know quite how that works. He would talk to them. That would appeal to Europeans. He's more European than McCain is. Witness the fact that, 200,000 people showed up in Berlin, although that is a city known for turning out crowds for dramatic speakers. Now, I'm sort of for globalization. I'm not as enthusiastic about it as a lot of people, but I think it's net a very good thing. If you're a manager or a deal maker, it spreads your talent across the globe, whereas before it was confined to a single country. So you are now more valuable. If you're a worker making trainers or T-shirts, you are now less valuable because of globalization and freer trade, because you're competing with lower cost labor. Now, you're benefiting as a consumer, but your wages are more important to you than your consumption spending. So I think what we're seeing is a kind of emerging feeling that there's something unfair going on in society in America, and that we should fix it. So you're going to see a non-efficient but seemingly more equitable use of resources in which you will be trading efficiency for equity. You're also going to see a shift from deregulation to regulation. Now, there is no such thing as a deregulated financial market. The notion that these markets were deregulated and somehow that caused all the problems is really just nuts. And as Mr. Sarkozy said, we're not going to let the Americans stand in our way. I don't think we've stood in their way since at least the days of Petain. I think you're going to see also a retreat by America from the role of world policeman. There has been no benefit from it. I think you're going to see America getting a little more stingy with its assets, partly because of budgetary considerations, partly because of a philosophic shift in America that is, I think, becoming somewhat more isolationist than it has been in a long time, partly out of disgust with the international institutions, partly out of disgust with what the NATO allies are prepared to do in Afghanistan. There's going to be a brawl between, and there is now is a brawl between the EU and the United States, in which Britain is going to have to choose sides. Gordon and Sarkozy want to have an international body regulating major international banks. Now, if anybody thinks the U.S. is going to go for that, I have a bridge in Brooklyn I'd like to sell you, because that's not going to happen. I don't care if it's an Obama administration, it's not going to happen. I think what you're going to see is Gordon sort of stuck. He will, I think, in the end, go along with the EU. He has managed to antagonize America in almost everything he's done since he became prime minister. When he went to meet our president the first time, he was borderline insulting. The election is still up for grabs. I must tell you about the polls. The polls are not what they look like. The polls are adjusted data, adjusted by the pollsters. For those of you like me who are for McCain, who, despite his complete incomprehension of anything that we would call economics, no interest, no comprehension. I don't think economics is that important. I think foreign policy is.
The Burgess Papers form the backbone of this book. It was nothing less, ladies and gentlemen, than the verbatim reports of Winston Churchill's war cabinet between 1939 and 1945. And it's told through the prism of the relationship between these four men, Roosevelt, Churchill, Marshall, General Marshall, the US Army Chief of Staff, and Lord Allenbrook, and the way in which these men interacted, and through their interaction created grand strategy. These four men, each of whom knew that they had the war-winning strategy, had to work with each other in order to create Allied grand strategy. And as a result, needless to say, there were some incredibly tough battles between them, because there were massive differences between the overall strategic concept of Lord Allenbrook and that of General Marshall. Marshall wanted to cross the Channel as soon as possible and strike hard into the heart of Germany, if possible by the autumn of 1942 and certainly in 1943. Allenbrook considered that this would be suicidal. Whose strategy was the sounder will never be known. It'll be the subject of controversy as long as men debate the strategy of the Second World War. I think he's creating, in a sense, a false dichotomy. It's not that one set were right all the time and one set of people were wrong. It's just that the circumstances changed to mean that an attack which was not advisable in 1942 or 1943 was absolutely necessary by 1944. One of the most difficult things as a historian to get over to the reader is humour and charm and charisma. And Churchill used all three of those to an amazing degree. Anthony Eden was about to go off to try to muscle Turkey into the war. Turkey, which had stayed out from the war, stayed absolutely neutral and resisted all pressure from the Allies to join the Allied side. In fact, in the end, Turkey didn't declare war against Hitler until February 1945. But he was about to go off to Turkey, and so he wrote to Churchill and said, what should be, and this was November 1943, what should be my central message? And Churchill wrote back saying, tell Turkey that Christmas is coming. It seems to me that, to sum up, they are all four of them heroes, they're all four of them right.